Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump says the U.S. military has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. The president says infighting within the Iranian regime is hindering the prospect of a deal. The U.S. military boards yet another ship with ties to Iran. What President Trump says about the American blockade on Iranian ports. A Virginia redistricting referendum blocked just one day after it passed. Why a judge says the measure is unconstitutional and the legal fight now underway. A massive media merger moving forward. Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders approving a deal with Paramount, a move to combine HBO, CNN, and CBS under a single company. The European Union unlocking more than $100 billion for Ukraine after Hungary lifts its veto. What it means for the war and new sanctions on Russia. A new documentary telling the story of an American performing arts company rising to global fame while facing pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. The film Unbroken and the resilience behind it.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump saying the U.S. has full control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's as the U.S. military boards the third ship with ties to Iran in just 3 days. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the latest on the crucial waterway.
Motor vessel Majestic X, we intend to conduct the boarding of your vessel.
The Pentagon on Thursday releasing a video of U.S. forces boarding the sanctioned MT Majestic, transporting oil from Iran to China. The action in the Indian Ocean marks the third time U.S. forces board a ship with ties to Iran this week. The Pentagon says we will continue global maritime enforcement to disrupt illicit networks. International waters cannot be used as a shield by sanctioned actors. And President Trump weighing in as well. He says we have total control over the Strait of Hormuz. No ship can enter or leave without the approval of the United States Navy. The president also ordering the Navy to shoot and kill anyone that is placing mines in the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. On top of that, the president says he's ordering U.S. forces to continue clearing the passage from mines placed during the war. Meanwhile, the American blockade on Iranian ports continues. U.S. Central Command announcing that U.S. forces have now redirected 33 vessels since the start of the blockade against Iran, adding that most vessels turned around have been oil tankers. So for now, the Strait of Hormuz remains empty with minimal traffic, as shipping data shows on Thursday. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
President Trump says infighting between hardliners and moderates within Iran's leadership is hindering prospects for a deal. In a Truth Social post, he wrote, quote, Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. And the U.S. continues to squeeze the regime economically through a naval blockade. The Trump administration says the regime is showing signs of fractures as Tehran loses $500 million a day. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the latest on Iran.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying there's a lot of internal division in Iran.
This is a battle between the pragmatists and the hardliners in Iran right now, and the president wants a unified response.
Leavitt providing context on why President Trump prolonged the ceasefire with Iran.
The president chose to extend the ceasefire because it's Iran who needs to get their act together. The United States and President Trump have been very clear in our demands and our red lines and what we need to see.
The White House cautioning against taking anything Iran says at face value.
What they say publicly is much different than what they concede to the United States and our negotiating team privately.
And says the United States maintains control over the situation and leverage over the Iranian regime.
Not only have they been significantly weakened and obliterated militarily, but they are losing economically and financially every single moment that passes with this blockade.
Leavitt saying the U.S. is completely strangling Iran's economy through the blockade of its ports.
They're losing $500 million a day. The Karg Island is completely full. They can't move oil in and out. They can't even pay their own people as a result of this economic leverage that President Trump has inflicted over them.
Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Lebanon and Israel are set to hold a second round of direct talks in Washington today. The meeting will focus on extending the ceasefire between Israel and the Hezbollah terror group. and outlining steps toward broader negotiations. A Lebanese ambassador and her Israeli counterpart are meeting just days after their first direct talks in 3 decades. Lebanon says it will push to extend the 10-day truce and raise concerns over Israeli demolitions in southern villages. Israel is calling for Hezbollah to be disarmed, saying it remains the main obstacle to peace. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar says Israel does not have any serious disagreements with Lebanon and hopes the country will support efforts to disarm the Tehran-backed terror group. Oil and gas prices are up as a long-term ceasefire with Iran remains elusive. WTI crude is hovering in the mid-90s. Brent crude is above $100 a barrel. Those numbers reflect overall increases from yesterday, though prices fluctuate. AAA reports the average cost of a gallon of regular gas is up about a penny. It's $4.03. Wall Street opening lower this morning. The Nasdaq both fell around 0.9%, while the S&P 500 dropped around 0.5%, and the Dow falling by about 0.5%. Airlines are warning ticket prices could rise sharply as jet fuel costs surge worldwide, driven by the Iran war. United Airlines says fares may need to jump by as much as 15 to 20% to keep up. But United CEO Scott Kirby telling CNBC that demand remains strong despite rising prices, showing customers are still willing to pay. The spike in fuel prices is already disrupting global aviation, forcing airlines to cut flights and rethink schedules. In Europe, German airline Lufthansa says it will cut 20,000 short-haul flights through October to save fuel. At the same time, global travel demand is still climbing, especially in popular destinations like Spain. Spanish airlines increasing seat capacity for the April to October period by as much as 6%. A change in U.S. military leadership. The Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, is stepping down. The Pentagon says the departure is effective immediately. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell made the announcement on X, saying, quote, "On behalf of the Secretary of War and Deputy Secretary of War, we are grateful to Secretary Phelan for his service to the Department and the United States Navy. We wish him well in his future endeavors." The statement announces Undersecretary Hong Kao will become acting secretary. No reason was given for Phelan's sudden departure. President Trump praised him on Truth Social, calling him smart, tough, and respected by all. The president called Phelan a longtime friend and very successful businessman. President Trump posted that he did an outstanding job serving as Secretary of the Navy. The president added that he would welcome him back into his administration in the future. A Virginia judge has blocked a newly approved redistricting referendum just 1 day after voters narrowly passed the measure. A circuit court judge, Jack Hurley, ruled the referendum unconstitutional and issued an injunction preventing certification of the election results. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones says he will immediately appeal the decision, arguing the ruling overrides the will of voters. The referendum passed with just over 51% support and would have redrawn congressional districts to give Democrats a projected 10-1 advantage in the state's delegation. The language of the referendum has drawn criticism, and the measure faces multiple legal challenges, including claims lawmakers did not follow proper procedures, as well as disputes over how the districts were drawn. And to talk more about this, joining us now is Gerard Filitti, legal analyst and senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. So, Gerard, good afternoon. Always good to see you here. So, according to the court's order, lawmakers did not follow required procedural steps before placing the amendment on the ballot, and the amendment ballot process, the process was defective. Can you just explain for us in certain terms, what does that mean? What are the required steps? What did lawmakers do?
Well, the entire issue of how this amendment, this proposed, came onto the ballot is the big question. Because what happened after 2020 was that there was a reform put forth by the Virginia legislature that left redistricting up to an independent commission. So that was the established law right now. And what voters decided was on a ballot initiative to amend the Virginia Constitution to essentially cancel out that reform which was already in place, to change the law. And this is something that's being questioned because it's really unique and a novel issue when you are challenging a commission that's already been established, existing law, to supplement it with an amendment that's not clearly written and is only meant to be for a temporary purpose, which brings into question the legitimacy. So the process here is that this should have been initiated by the legislature legislature itself and not started by an amendment process on a ballot initiative.
All right, I see. Okay, so another issue here, the ruling said the ballot wording was misleading. So the ballot question, for our viewers in case they don't know, said, should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? That's essentially the question. So explain for us, how did the ballot language not meet constitutional standards according to the court order?
The argument is that it's vague and it's difficult to understand what the exact outcome would be if voters decided to vote on it. When you have a question of should, but then you're not providing a very clear example of how reform is going to be carried out or what is actually going to happen, it leads to confusion, arguably, among voters that they did not understand the specific thing that they were voting for, but rather were voting for an idea about a reform that's non-specific. So that is what the judge was concerned with, that voters may have been confused by the language and not understood that they were voting for something in general and not for a specific breakdown, not for a specific methodology.
Okay, so Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones said Virginia voters have spoken and the judge should not have veto power over the people's vote. What is your reaction to this statement?
Well, it's not veto power, it's upholding the law. And again, as we started this interview talking about process that should have been followed, process is a fundamental issue of law, and also making sure that voters understand what they're voting for and that that vote itself is constitutionally appropriate. So that's what the courts are looking at. They're not looking at the voters' will. Everyone agrees that the voters have the power to decide things, but ultimately it's whether the procedure was followed, whether the language was clear, and whether the intent of this ballot was made specifically clear to people who voted on it. And those are all legal questions, not trying to supplement or supplant the will of the voters.
So as you know, they're going to appeal. Virginia's Attorney General said this. How do you think this is going to play out, this case, in the Virginia Supreme Court?
Well, that's a good question. I think the Virginia Supreme Court, and we have to bear in mind, this will not be a federal court issue. Federal courts don't address the issue of gerrymandering along political lines. That's considered a non-justiciable political question. So this stays in Virginia state courts. And the Virginia Supreme Court is likely to place a lot of emphasis on the process, on whether this is something that should have started as a constitutional amendment brought within the Virginia legislature, or whether it was appropriately placed on the ballot. That's the first issue. And the second issue will examine that issue about the language and whether it was clear enough to voters what they were actually voting on. I think the Supreme Court will find that this is something that was not properly done, more likely than not, and will order it redone in the proper manner.
Okay, let me ask you some bigger questions here, more broader questions. Does shifting Virginia's congressional delegation from a 6-5 split to a potential 10-1 advantage for Democrats, does that raise concerns about voter disenfranchisement?
Well, it certainly does. Whenever you have political gerrymandering, you are concerned that people will not be able to vote for the candidate of their choice. And when we see states like Virginia, which are, even though lately there have been more Democrats elected to state and to federal office than Republicans, it's not by a 10-1 margin. It's by a much smaller margin. Democrats barely hold a majority in a lot of electoral seats in Virginia. So when you are redistricting in Virginia and elsewhere along partisan lines in order to give benefit to Democratic seats or Republican for that matter, when the state itself is much more mixed and much more split, that gives rise to the concern that people will not have their votes counted. That's the ultimate essence of disenfranchisement. So this is a problem that we're seeing whether in Virginia, in Texas, in Indiana, in other states that are considering redistricting. This is a major concern.
Okay, you said earlier this is going to stay in Virginia State Court. Is there enough time before the midterm elections for this case to play out and potentially the new map to take effect?
There is time, but the ultimate issue here is whether it's fast enough. I think that there are also constitutional issues or legal issues in Virginia about how long in advance a district needs to be established, and voters have an opportunity to put people on a ballot before an election. So in all likelihood, this will not be decided or it will not be in time to affect the outcome of the midterm elections, but rather this will be something that affects us in 2028 and onwards.
Okay, just one final thing here. Let me get your thoughts on, Democrats are saying that this is in response to Republicans redistricting in places like Texas, for example, North Carolina. People I talked to yesterday say, gerrymandering, this is not an ideal situation. But what do you say to this argument, this general argument that if one side does it, then it leaves little room for the other side not to respond, like a nuclear arms race.
Well, this is always with gerrymandering. The dirty secret is that it's always existed and will always exist. Most of the time it happens, it's not so blatant. It's not so in your face. You're not covering it on the news. We're not talking about it as a matter of national politics. But this is something that happens in every state, in every county, pretty much year after year, even before censuses are carried out to do the official redistricting every 10 years. So this is something that happens all the time. We're just now talking about it because the electorate has become so divided in this country, and races really have become so close. You can win or lose a presidential election by a matter of some thousands of votes, that every district counts. So it's not who started it and blaming each other, but it's the reality of politics today. And that the ultimate question is whether there's a solution for it, or whether we will keep having gerrymandering battles for years to come.
Yeah, that's the key question. If there's a solution to it, some people I talked to say yesterday it's impossible to get politics out of redistricting, but that's just one opinion. But Gerard, really enjoyed speaking with you today.
Pleasure as always, Don. Thank you so much.
The Justice Department cracking down on international scam networks accused of stealing billions from Americans. How investigators are targeting the groups behind it. Next, after this break. An $81 billion media deal approved after a high-stakes takeover battle. Why shareholders sided with Paramount over a rival offer. After this break, stay with us.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
This land, our America, built on hard work, determination, and grit. Sometimes the days run long, but hope, it never runs out, even when the food does, for America's veterans, working parents, even kids. Because in every corner of every town, even yours, millions of hard-working neighbors are facing a hunger crisis, many for the very first time. In this land of plenty, affording food shouldn't require second jobs and third shifts or choosing between your groceries and bills. Today, you can help change that. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, less than 63 cents a day, to help every neighbor get the food they urgently need. Because taking care of each other is what makes America strong. We're Feeding America. Not just a name, but an action. Working with over 200 local food banks like the ones in your community. And demand is soaring.
You go to the grocery store, you spend $100, and $100 is a new $20 bill.
Even with 2 full-time jobs, it gets hard to make ends meet.
These are tough times, but when we stand together, we become the very best of a strong America. Please call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Just $19 a month can feed a family today. And your first gift can double an impact. Plus, we'll send you this free canvas bag as a reminder of the hope you're delivering.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Because you're not just giving food, you're fueling resilience for people across the nation. You're feeding America. Call or go online today to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double an impact.
Have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Our spring style event is going on now, with hundreds of options for your new dining room. This 52-inch table is a great deal. It's just $4.99 in your choice of finishes. Mix and match chairs to complete the look that's just right for you. You can also get it with a marble top or in a larger size for extra seating. We have your style in stock now with fast, free delivery. Get your new dining room and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
On Capitol Hill, senators held an overnight vote-a-rama ending around 3 a.m. this morning. Republicans have approved the first step for a party line bill to fund ICE and CBP through the end of President Trump's term. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has a report.
At around 3 a.m. this morning, Senate Republicans passed a budget resolution. It's the very first step in a process that will allow them to fund immigration enforcement without any Democrat votes. This resolution essentially requests that 2 relevant committees mark up a bill to fund ICE and CBP and not to exceed $70 billion in that process. Republicans say the goal with this is to prevent Democrats from having leverage on ICE funding during the remainder of President Trump's term.
And to prevent Democrats from deciding that they want to defund law enforcement again in September, we're going to fund these critical functions for the next 3 years.
Republicans want to shell out billions of dollars to Donald Trump's private army without any common sense reforms or restraints.
Remember, Republicans are forced to do this alone without any Democrat votes because Democrats rejected ICE funding without changes to ICE policy. But back when the White House was in negotiation talks with Democrats, they offered several concessions, but none of them were good enough, forcing Republicans into this position that many have admitted is not ideal.
It's a troubling spot we're in. Unfortunately, it could have been avoided, but we're going to try to figure out our way through it.
I don't like multi-year funding of agencies because it decreases the ability for us to conduct oversight.
Now that the Senate has passed this resolution, there are several steps that need to follow here. The House will also need to pass that resolution. Then both chambers will need to pass the actual bill before it can reach President Trump's desk. The president wants it on his desk by June 1st. Remember, this comes as the DHS has been shut down now for nearly 70 days. House Republicans, though, have insisted that they're not going to bring up that partial funding bill to reopen the DHS until immigration enforcement is funded. Here's why.
Some concern on our side that if you do the bulk of the department first before that, then they could be left out. We can't allow for that. So we're working through that. The sequencing is important, and the language of
the rest of this process could take days or weeks, but lawmakers need to act fast on this because the DHS secretary earlier this week did warn that the executive order that was providing payroll for DHS employees in the temporary will soon run dry.
That money is dried up if I continue down this path the first week of May.
The House Speaker has vowed to act quickly, and the Senate leader says that this process could be completed on the Senate side as early as next week. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
ICE's Houston office says it has arrested 277 illegal immigrants responsible for hundreds of crimes. The agency says the arrests were carried out over an 11-day period earlier this month. ICE says those arrested had 751 criminal convictions between them and had entered the U.S. illegally hundreds of times. The agency says they include individuals convicted of serious violent offenses, including child predators, drug traffickers, and gang members. ICE says the arrests were made with the help from federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. The agency is warning efforts to limit cooperation with local police could impact public safety and enforcement efforts. The Justice Department says its Scam Center strike force is taking action against Southeast Asian criminal organizations. The DOJ says the groups have defrauded Americans of billions of dollars.
We are driving a coordinated campaign to disrupt as well as impose consequences on the transnational criminal organizations that run and are behind these schemes. Today, we announced significant milestones in that fight. We have charged Chinese bosses who ran a scam compound in Burma where thousands were trafficked, enslaved, beaten, and then forced to steal from Americans for years. We have seized also a Telegram channel, and that channel was luring workers into a forced compound in Cambodia. There they were ordered to pose as U.S. banks, as the New York City Police Department, to steal Americans' life savings. We have taken down more than 500 websites. They were used to steal Americans' life savings. Now, the 2 Chinese nationals over here who ran the slave labor scam factory in Burma, where they trafficked and tortured people if they didn't deliver on fake cryptocurrency investments to steal Americans' life savings, are Wang Xing Shan and Jiang Wenji. We look forward to prosecuting them in the United States.
Bureau said some victims became so distressed that they end up taking their own lives. The U.S. District Attorney for Columbia called the scams, quote, economic homicide. Bureau adding that JP Morgan Chase and Microsoft are conducting parallel investigations with the DOJ into networks running the Telegram channel, taking down accounts as well that are targeting Americans. Assistant Attorney General Tyson Duva said victims can seek assistance from the FBI at www.ic3.gov. The public can submit tips to the Bureau at tips.fbi.gov. Now, moving on to California, 6 candidates face off to debate why they should become the state's next governor. The candidates are running to replace Governor Gavin Newsom as his term ends. NTD's David Lamb has more.
6 leading candidates running for California governor debating on Wednesday night.
So it is a deep honor for me to be endorsed by the President of the United States. And here's the thing that's going to help every Californian when I'm governor, is that we will have a constructive relationship and partnership with the federal government.
4 Democrats and 2 Republicans met in San Francisco for a 90-minute moderated Q&A format debate with pressing topics.
I think it is critical that California get off fossil fuels. Electric vehicles starting cost is too high, and I would triple the credit. We have to shorten permitting and make it less expensive. We made a first step on it last year. We'll make more.
The debate comes after former Representative Eric Swalwell suspended his gubernatorial run and resigned from Congress amid allegations of sexual misconduct, which he has denied.
We have to have the facts. Rumors are one thing, but getting the facts really gets you to move. And let me just applaud those courageous survivors who stood up and told America what the truth was. And today, Eric Swalwell was facing accountability.
Running the state.
Mr. Bianco, let me ask a clarification one more time. How would we fund roads and bridges if you eliminate the gas tax? You have 15 seconds.
We eliminate all of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that's going on where our money is being spent now. The number 1 responsibility of government is public safety. Number 2 is infrastructure.
I'm a notoriously tough grader, but I would probably give him a B on homelessness. I don't think this has been an easy problem to solve, but I do give him a lot of credit for calling attention to the problem. When he campaigned 8 years ago, he was talking about housing when nobody else was.
Being the mayor of the largest city in Silicon Valley, I am at the forefront of these technological changes. I know that these tools can be harnessed to do great good, but I also understand the risks. I am not afraid to regulate big tech or any other industry, and as governor, I'll make sure we protect the people of California.
The 2 candidates with the most votes in the June 2nd primary, regardless of party, will move on to the general election on November 3rd. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
The Justice Department is reclassifying FDA-approved and state-licensed marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says the move will allow research on its safety and efficacy. Blanche adds that the reclassification and further study will provide doctors with more reliable information and patients with better care. The decision to reclassify marijuana marks one of the most significant federal changes to marijuana policy in decades. The move follows a December executive order from President Trump directing the Justice Department to loosen marijuana restrictions. For years, marijuana has been classified as a Schedule A drug, Schedule A1 drug, and a category that includes hard drugs like heroin. Nearly half of U.S. states have legalized recreational cannabis, while over 40 allow the drug for medical use. The Justice Department's move does not legalize marijuana at the federal level. In West Virginia, 2 people are dead and about 30 injured after a chemical leak at a silver recovery business. Here's Governor Patrick Morrisey after yesterday's leak.
We really need prayers tonight coming out of West Virginia for the individuals who lost their lives today and for the individual we know to be in serious condition. We know that there was a violent reaction when very chemicals met that was not supposed to occur. But beyond that, there's still a lot that needs to be determined through the investigative process. That we have been monitoring all day, and we're going to continue to monitor, because if we see anything that's problematic, we're going to immediately alert the public.
The leak happened yesterday at the Catalyst Refiners plant near the Institute area, a community along the Chenal River. County Commission President Ben Selangor says it's believed that a chemical reaction during the cleaning process produced toxic hydrogen Q gas. The Chenal County DA says more than 30 people were taken to hospitals, including several first responders helping at the scene. The cause remains under investigation as crews monitor air quality and conditions around the site. Wildfires are intensifying across the southeast, destroying homes in Georgia and forcing evacuations. Officials there declaring a state of emergency. Here's more.
Oh my gosh.
Georgia declaring a state of emergency as drought, high winds, and low humidity drive a growing wildfire threat across South Georgia. Georgia's two biggest fires have already burned more than 30 square miles, threatening hundreds of homes and prompting mass evacuations.
We are in extreme drought conditions, and wildfire activity has already surpassed our 5-year average. Right now, Georgia Forestry Commission teams are fully mobilized, working alongside local, state, and federal partners.
In Brantley County, a fast-moving wildfire has already destroyed dozens of homes and was growing fast.
Yesterday morning around 11 o'clock, the winds kicked up and the fire spread rapidly from about 700 acres to now we hear it's about 4,000 acres.
At least 800 people have evacuated as emergency crews warn conditions can change quickly.
These winds may shift rapidly, and which will create unpredictable fire behavior. So just stay alert, and for the public, be prepared to evacuate immediately.
Residents forced to flee, many unsure what they'll return to.
I don't know if I still have a house standing or not. And that's what drives me, I think, crazy more than anything, not knowing.
This is one of the biggest casualties biggest things we've ever had in Brantley County.
As crews work to contain the flames, communities are now rallying to support families who've lost nearly everything. Volunteers opening churches and shelters, offering food and support to those forced from their homes.
Yesterday, when we started hearing about evacuations and things of that nature from the fire, we had somebody say, hey, let's do something. And we just started cooking and started just offering meals to everybody.
For many, that support could make a critical difference.
People need to pray because there's a lot of people that don't have a safety net. Everything they have is in their house and they don't have a savings and they're already struggling, and this isn't going to be easy for them to recover from.
In neighboring Florida, fire crews are fighting more than 100 wildfires. Officials saying the state is facing one of its worst fire seasons in decades. The National Weather Service warning the fires remain an ongoing threat, with dry weather and winds continuing into Friday.
Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders have approved an $81 billion merger with Paramount, a deal that would combine some of the biggest names in media. The company combined would include Warner's HBO, CNN, DC Studios, alongside Paramount's CBS, Paramount Pictures, and Nickelodeon. The new entity would be led by Skydance CEO David Ellison, son of Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison. The deal is valued at more than $110 billion, including debt, and comes after Warner Brothers favored an earlier streaming-focused offer from Netflix. Paramount then went directly to shareholders with a more aggressive bid for the entire company, ultimately winning support with a higher offer. The acquisition still faces review by federal regulators. Netflix's board has authorized a buyback of $25 billion in stock, the company reported in a SEC filing today. The plan will give back cash to shareholders and boost the price of Netflix shares. Shares took a major hit after the company agreed to an $83 billion purchase of Warner Brothers streaming and studio businesses. But Netflix backed out of the deal after Paramount Skydance upped its hostile takeover bid for all of Warner Brothers Discovery. That's when Netflix reiterated plans to invest $20 billion in quality films and series in 2026 and resume its share repurchase program. The Federal Communications Commission is seeking public comment on whether current TV ratings and parental warning systems are adequate. This includes material related to gender identity. The FCC says it's reviewing whether voluntary ratings created in the 1990s still provide clear guidance to parents in today's media environment, including streaming platforms. The agency cited concerns raised by some parents that programs rated for children may include gender identity topics without sufficient disclosure. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr says the goal is to ensure parents have the information they need to make informed choices. From bombers to drones, the U.S. Army testing a new bunker-busting weapon that could change modern warfare. Why it matters as threats move underground. Could the Iran conflict be a preview of something much bigger? Why one top diplomat says what's happening now may be a dry run for a U.S.-China war. That and more after this break in just a moment.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Tired of struggling with that heavy leaf blower? Introducing the Bullseye Power Blower. It delivers a massive blowing force, and yet it's so compact and lightweight. Just lock and load the rechargeable battery for long-lasting runtime. The secret is the compact turbocharged motor with jet burst technology that blasts out 21,000 RPMs of airflow. Watch this. The sheer force propels this woman across the pool. Look, use Bullseye to blow up a huge jump house. Now that's power. Even blows snow right off your vehicle in no time. Turbo clean your porch in a flash or tidy up your dirty garage floor in seconds. Get it today for just $99.99. But wait, act now and get a $20 discount. So it's only $79.99. Plus, you'll get the adjustable extension tube. Yours free. And it all comes with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-209-2313 or go to bullseyeblower.com. That's 1-800-209-2313 or order online at bullseyeblower.com. Order now.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets. Regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Singapore's foreign minister is warning that the Iran conflict could be more than a regional crisis, calling it a potential dry run for a future U.S.-China war. As tensions escalate, Indo-Pacific leaders are watching closely, weighing what it could mean for security and global trade. For more on what's at stake, here is NTD's Flora Hua.
It's now been roughly 55 days since the Iran conflict began. The U.S. has launched not only Operation Epic Fury, but also Economic Fury, maintaining maximum military and financial pressure on the Iranian regime. China commentator Dr. Jason Ma says the U.S. operation is indirectly targeting China.
If the United States seriously starts tracking ships, seizing vessels, finding companies, and going after intermediaries this time, it may appear to be targeting Iran on the surface, but in reality, it is directly going after the gray network of energy and material flows behind Iran, centered around the Chinese Communist Party.
From U.S. forces enforcing a blockade on ships tied to Iran to Treasury sanctions targeting banks that do business with Tehran, Dr. Ma says Washington may be looking beyond the current conflict, testing ways to counter Beijing in a future war.
The United States is also using this to test its ability to impose a maritime blockade against a specific country on a global scale. The very process of carrying this out serves as a powerful deterrent to the Chinese Communist Party. It could well be a rehearsal for a larger effort in the future to choke off China's maritime lifelines, making it increasingly difficult for a sanctioned regime to breathe. This method is simply more modern, more precise, and harder to counter. It represents a new way of warfare, one that achieves prolonged strategic pain at a much lower political cost.
The Indo-Pacific remains a top priority for the Pentagon, even as the conflict in Iran continues. And the self-governed democracy Taiwan has been the focal point of geopolitical tensions in the region. The U.S. relies on the island's advanced microchip production and sees it as a key regional ally. But the Chinese Communist Party has threatened to annex the island by any means, keeping the option of invasion on the table. Beijing has carried out multiple war games around Taiwan in recent years. The Taiwan Strait, which separates Taiwan and China, is also a vital energy lifeline for U.S. allies like Japan and South Korea. Speaking at a CNBC event Wednesday, Singapore's foreign minister weighed in on how a potential conflict between the U.S. and China could unfold.
The main danger is if that relationship fractures. If they go to war in the Pacific, what you're witnessing now in the Strait of Hormuz is just a dry run.
Flora Hua, NTD News.
Now, what used to be a requirement of billion-dollar bombers may soon be done by a small drone. The U.S. Army has successfully tested a drone-delivered bunker-busting warhead, a breakthrough that could reshape how wars are fought. At Redstone Arsenal, soldiers successfully deploying a new bunker-busting warhead from a small unmanned drone. The system, known as Breaker, is designed to deliver powerful strikes using lightweight, low-cost aircraft. Until now, bunker-buster weapons typically required large manned aircraft, from strike fighters like the F-15 to heavy bombers like the B-2 Spirit. Breaker changes that, putting this capability directly in the hands of Army drone operators without the need for bomber support. The test comes as a ceasefire holds for now between the U.S. and Iran. Earlier, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said U.S. strikes sharply reduced Iran's missile and drone activity. But critical assets may still be hidden underground, including parts of its nuclear program and missile arsenal. While it's designed for defense, Anthropic's Mythos AI could also be used to attack infrastructure. The company says the system can identify and exploit serious software vulnerabilities at a level approaching and in some cases exceeding that of top human experts. Here's more.
Tech firm Anthropic says its new AI model, Mythos, could be too dangerous to be released to the public. That sparked fears that the same AI capabilities that could help defenders could also help attackers find new ways into critical systems.
This particular tool seems to be more powerful than anything else we've seen before, and is able to identify vulnerabilities that others, including humans, have overlooked for decades. If the tool is as good as it seems, then maybe attackers could use it to layer several different layers of vulnerabilities or exploit several sectors in parallel, for example, power and water infrastructure, and then really launch an attack that is more powerful than anything we've seen before.
Cybersecurity involves a constant race between those trying to find and fix weaknesses and those trying to exploit them. Mythos signals a significant step forward in that cyber arms race. Industries already feeling vulnerable may now have more cause for alarm.
I think the financial market has been particularly vocal about the fear of what this means to the banking sector, the potential to disrupt banking and processes and financial services. There's also concern that this could be used by attackers to exploit vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure, which already relies on pretty outdated infrastructure in many cases already.
To limit access, Anthropic placed Mythos in a restricted initiative called Project Glasswing. Project Glasswing brings together companies including Amazon Web Services, Apple, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palo Alto Networks, as well as more than 40 additional organizations that build or maintain critical software infrastructure. Anthropic says that the purpose of Project Glasswing is to use Mythos to help secure critical software before others weaponize similar capabilities.
The fact that this is one company that has the power to decide now which of its selected partners has access to this really illustrates how powerful these tech companies are. And that at the moment, it's really unclear who has access to this. And yeah, are there any European companies, for example, that have access to the tool? So I think there's many questions that are left unanswered at the moment that add to this hype and this perception of it being an absolute game changer.
The bigger issue may be less whether Mythos alone changes cybersecurity than whether it signals a broader shift. Anthropic says it sees no reason to think Mythos represents a plateau and says frontier capabilities are likely to advance substantially over the next few months. CEO Dario Amodei in February suggested we may be on the cusp of a new era where computer thinking surpasses the human intellect.
We're increasingly close to what I've called a country of geniuses in a data center, a set of AI agents that are more capable than most humans at most things and can coordinate at superhuman speed.
The White House says China is trying to steal American AI. The administration's Office of Science and Technology Policy says foreign entities are running industrial-scale distillation campaigns. Distillation of artificial intelligence involves training small AI models by imitating the performances of larger ones. According to the White House Science and Technology Office, distillation doesn't replicate the full performance of the original model. However, the process does enable foreign entities to release products that appear comparable at a much lower cost. According to the office's director, foreign actors use tens of thousands of proxies and jailbreaking technologies to exploit American innovations in AI. China in the spotlight over comments toward Taiwan. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council says recent remarks from the Chinese regime underscore Beijing's ongoing denial of Taiwan's government and political reality.
So I would urge some political figures in Taiwan to not have any more illusions about the Chinese Communist Party's policies toward Taiwan. Those illusions are all built on an unrealistic foundation. Listen to what they, China, are really saying. Everyone can infer from that. Thank you.
Today, the council responded after a Chinese spokesperson said there is no president of Taiwan. The spokesperson also claimed that Taiwan was part of China at a Taiwan Affairs Office press conference. The comments come amid a separate dispute that involves Taiwan's presidential aircraft being denied flight permissions by several African nations ahead of a planned diplomatic visit. The Chinese regime claims Taiwan is part of its territory despite never having ruled the island. The European Union has approved a major loan package for Ukraine after Hungary lifted its veto. The agreement unlocks more than $105 billion in financial support for the next 2 years. EU officials say the funds will help Ukraine cover urgent economic and military needs as the war continues. Disbursements are expected to begin as soon as possible. The deal also clears the way for a new round of sanctions against Russia. Those had been delayed due to internal EU divisions linked to energy disputes. A powerful new documentary follows an American dance company as it rises to global fame while facing threats and intimidation. The untold story of Shen Yun after this break. Stay with us.
Introducing the Quest-Wise Soothing Herbal Eye Patches. It comes with 30 pairs and can be used to help combat tired and strained eyes. The natural herbal formula provides a cooling, minty, and refreshing effect that stimulates natural tears and awakens your tired eyes. Placing the eye patches around your eyes helps to reduce dryness and massages acupuncture points. They can be worn while reading, studying, using electronics, and provide hours of long-lasting relief.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options only at selectspecs.com.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun.
featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
The 8th NTD International Piano Competition welcomes distinguished pianists from around the world, celebrating the depth, discipline, and expressive power of the Baroque, classical, and romantic repertoire. September 1st through the 5th, 2026, New York City. Apply at piano.ntdtv.com, honoring the timeless tradition of the piano.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
A newly released documentary tracks the success of an American performing arts company as it achieves international recognition while confronting ongoing threats and intimidation from the Chinese Communist Party. Last night, Shenyun Performing Arts shares its perspective during a screening of the new film Unbroken, the untold story of Shenyun. NTD's Jack Bradley reports.
A new documentary bringing to light the perseverance of a New York-based dance company in the face of threats from the Chinese Communist Party. In Toronto, the country's film premiere of Unbroken, the untold story of Shenyun, following performers and their families as they navigate escalating smear campaigns, threats, and interference linked to the CCP.
These dancers perform consecutive nights in a row. So to perform at that level, they have to focus, they have to take care of their minds, their bodies. But now you have this added element of show cancellations. You have media in your hometown, in your home area that's copying or propagating reports coming out of China.
Members of Canada's Parliament issuing proclamations recognizing the premiere and commending Shenyun's resilience as the company marks its 20th anniversary, seeking to revive China's traditional, spiritually rooted culture from before the rise of communism. Intense training and a deep sense of purpose have shaped not only their performances, but also their personal development.
For me, Shenyun is my home. I really feel that way because I've built such a great community here and I have so much support, and it's something that I feel like I can't imagine being anywhere else and sharing what I'd love to do, which is playing music and then sharing it with the audience members.
Being around so many wonderful people just inspires me to be a better person, and I think on a bigger scale, Shenyun is really just reigniting humanity's goodness, and I think just trying to spread these universal values.
My favorite part of being Shenyun is the community and the environment it gives. I've met so many amazing people, made so many amazing friends, and we go through so much together. So we form a really strong bond. And then we go on tour, we travel around the world, we meet more amazing people who have more amazing stories and see so many amazing things. It's like a dream come true.
I want them to kind of see our story, our side of the story. Because recently, there's been a lot of kind of bad and negative press, and I feel like that doesn't really show, our voices, our side of the story.
Despite gaining worldwide recognition, the group continues to face intimidation and threats. Over the past 2 years, Shenyun received over 150 fake bomb and death threats, all ultimately deemed not credible. Performances have gone on as scheduled in nearly every case. That is, until a few weeks ago. Toronto's Four Seasons Centre canceled several shows following hoax bomb threats reportedly tied to an individual associated with the CCP.
When the threat was determined by the police as not credible, people should have been brought back to the theater, but not canceling the show altogether and all the following shows. This is absolutely unacceptable because we cannot have continuing interference in the affairs of our sovereign country by outside powers.
So many people in Canada love Shenyun, and to not be able to get that chance is really hard. But I just really hope that in the future they will get a chance to see our show, and I really hope that I'll get a chance to perform for my fellow Canadians.
Meanwhile, the New York Times published a series of articles attacking Shenyun over a 6-month span, alleging the company withheld medical care from injured dancers, but without ever interviewing their doctors.
When you see, sort of America's prized media institution, the New York Times, the paper of record, being used as a propaganda tool, a direct propaganda tool for the Chinese Communist Party, that's what the United Front Work Department is, it starts to raise questions.
Even with these challenges, the company has continued to expand its reach.
This is not just a Shenyun story, it's an American story, it's a Canadian story, it's a story for people who are trying to say something, do something that's very brave and courageous when the largest totalitarian regime on earth is trying to stop you.
Audience members at the screening said they were moved by the performers' willingness to take risks and persevere.
One of the aims of this movie, in my view, was to expose the foreign interference coming out of China to the Western democracies.
What Unbroken has done for me is given a wider perspective of how the Chinese government doesn't like to have the positive message of the culture of Chinese.
They tell the other side of the story that New York Times had refused to talk about.
I was really taken by the professionalism of the documentary. It was beautifully done. I want to share this with everyone I know. I think that's the value of seeing this documentary.
Despite mounting pressure, Shenyun says it remains committed to its mission of reviving traditional Chinese culture and sharing it with audiences around the world. For NTD News, I'm Jack Bradley.
Continued restrictions on trade through the Strait of Hormuz is hitting airlines hard. They're now looking at raising fares and potentially revising routes. More news in just a moment. Stay with us.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School. College first round draft pick, on and off the field. We were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore.